tribulations, my heart, my balls, my somebody stop, somebody come and get me. Little did I know that the Lord was riding with me. The dark, the light, my heart, the fight, the wrong, the right is gone.
So hi JVS, this is Nathan Grossman, the director behind the documentary I Am Greta, about Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg. It's a pleasure talking to you today.
Okay, Nathan, congratulations on this amazing documentary. I read that you basically started it with no budget. You shot about 95% of it just yourself. And honestly, you found a way of making this a hero's journey, which a lot of people don't really understand. When it comes to a hero, it's not always cookies and rainbows. It's always an ongoing fight. And so I just want to commend you on that for starters, just to let you know.
Thank you very much. No, but I think it's a good introduction, and I think it's something that we tend to forget sometimes. That people are like whoever it is. Everyone is a three-dimensional, human being with lots of emotions, and maybe with Greta, we've sometimes made her just like this one-dimensional, super angry, child screaming against adults in the United Nations, and of course that's a part of her. But I think the film shows that she's so much more than that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that from a media standpoint, it's always easier to go with the newest fad, just kind of just push conjecture and push like a narrative instead of really grounding, who this amazing young girl is, and as well as her family. My biggest first question was, while filming this with you, with Greta, with the family, was there ever a time where it felt just too much? Reason why I asked that is because I think it was a moment where she was on the boat and she was starting to really mentally, emotionally just break down. I mean, it kind of was building to that, like a lot of different moments that you captured amazingly. But I was just curious from your end, progressively through this, was there ever a moment where the family or the dad or the mom or you or her was just like, this is just too much? And I was worried while watching the documentary. I was worried for her mental health. I was worried for the stress and the strain of all this and the ramifications of it as well. So I was just curious from your perspective.
Yeah, Samuel, and that's a big part of this story in a sense, as you say, trying to understand how kind of this crazy and very emotional year kind of looked like from her perspective, because the film kind of goes a little bit inside her head in a sense, that we're not kind of seeing this through from the outside with people explaining who she is in talking heads. We're right there with her in these moments, and she is narrating the film through interviews that I did with her in her living room, and also read from diary notes that became the narration of the entire piece. And I think I was very mindful as a documentarian to try to be as ethical as I could in my approach to her. And I would have always been open to her that if you feel that there's like that it annoys you that I'm there, or that I'm following on this specific trip or anything, just tell me or nod, or you can just pull my jacket if there's a situation where you don't want me to be. But Greta has been very transparent during her entire activism in that she wants to kind of be herself, and that she wants to kind of show, in a sense, the truth of how she lives her life, because she really practices as she preaches. But it was more me that sometimes felt like, oh, but this isn't kind of relevant filming, or I was tired and felt, oh, okay, I already have this situation, so I don't need to film anything more.
Yeah. I think that's a really good segue to the next thing I was going to bring up, because her parents, like her dad was, from what I've seen from the film, like her dad stuck with her most of the time. Her mom kind of held things down on the home front. But as a parent myself, it's unimaginable in my head knowing, what my daughter's already going through from a mental level as well as an emotional level, and how she's passionate about something and she's holding on to this with dear life. How influential were the parents in the progression through this documentary that you were able to see and you were able to notice, with the continuation of it, because I feel like they had to have not only been like motivating her, but also like talking to you through the process of all of it. So I was just curious, how big of an impact were the parents through the progression of this documentary that you were able to tell?
No, but I think what's so interesting with Greta's story is in a sense that she came from this family that were totally living a non kind of environmental friendly lifestyle. And she was actually the one who conveyed the family to change their ways. And as she's spoken about a lot too, she felt very ill when she was young, and that was in part in relationship to what she saw was happening in regards to climate change, and how her parents totally kind of ignored that, and flew around the world and ate meat and didn't give a damn. So she influenced them a lot. But of course, she's also been open lately on that. Of course, she couldn't have been doing this activism without being a Swedish, upper middle class person. And I think she spent her kind of entire activism talking a lot about how important it is to be open about that, and also how important it is for this issue to be something that it kind of is addressed, seeing the world as it is, in a sense that kind of the people that are most affected by climate change, of course, won't be people in Sweden, upper middle class, and she's kind of speaking up for many of them. But to go back to the parents, she carries this issue in herself, and she carries this knowledge, and she's done, I don't know, it must have been thousands of interviews now with questions from all different weird ways, and she answers them perfectly because she knows this issue. And I think what people want to do with Greta is that they want to speak about different conspiracies about her and the parents, and God what not conspiracies, because they don't want to speak about the issues. They don't want to speak about the facts and the figures that she's presenting. And then it's much easier speaking about other parts of her.
Yeah, it's. I think that ties into the very last thing. Like I wanted to kind of bring up with you is that most of the time when it comes to media, the progression where major topics come up, like there's this shock value that instantly hits people. It's like, wow, I did not know this was a problem. Wow, we need to do something. And then media presents something else, and then that becomes the next topic of the week. And as sad and mortifying as it is, every single thing like this specific topic, which is one of the biggest, that's the protection of our world as it is, gets overlooked because of progressively things just continuously happening. And it's just hard. It's a hard uphill battle. And even when I was reviewing your film, I was kind of like questioning within myself, because as you can tell this year, it's just been insane. The amount of things that have happened, like whether it be the pandemic, whether it be, racial issues or whatever, from a country to country basis, it's just terrible. A lot of the things that's been happening just in this year alone. And so my biggest question for you was, while after filming this and now this is being distributed, which is amazing, as far as her efforts, and far as what Greta did, what she's learned, what she's done through your documentary, do you feel like her efforts were not in vain? And do you think that they've already made a difference, or what do you want to speak towards that personally?
No, but first, I think you're totally right, Samuel, with one point, which comes to how hard it is for the kind of long-term issues to be kind of given the space that's needed. And when two of those, which are so important, is climate change, which is a structural and long-term issue that we're having, and as you say, racial issues, which is also in the same kind of thing. It's a long-term systemical problem, and these things, when it comes into news reporting, they tend to, as you say, when they come up, they're super interesting, but then the world kind of goes on, and it's not solved. And then I understand that you can feel like, oh, okay, but all the efforts that we did, wasn't it worth anything? But I think it is, because it's the accumulated knowledge and the accumulated kind of power that we put into an issue that will translate into the future. And now, for instance, when it comes to climate change, what happened during the year when Greta really spoke about this was that lots and lots of people and lots of young people got interested in this and learned a lot more. And now, of course, there's been a pandemic that has put everything on hold. But there will be a day after this pandemic, I can say. Actually, the pandemic is a fairly short-term thing. It's something that we can solve in a fairly short amount of time. And after that, the young people will say, but the pollutants are running out into the atmosphere. And now we want that crisis to be treated in the same way as you treated the corona crisis. And I think it's the same thing. When the pandemic is over, there would still be racial injustice, and then we will be able to kind of pick up that thread as well. So it's just sad that we, as humans, seem to have a hard time treating several crises at the same time, which I think is something that we need to be much better on doing.
Yeah, and I definitely think it all ties to us working together as a collective. It only takes one person to bring about understanding and connection. And that's how everybody formulates together, just like what Greta did with her son, where she was at. She was just like, I'm going to do this. And I think you did an amazing job with this documentary. I really appreciate your time for this interview. I can't wait to see what you have next, honestly.
Yeah, I'll have some small vacation now. It's been very intensive. We showed the film in Venice Film Festival a few months ago, and then it's gone to Toronto and to film festivals, and I've been doing lots of interviews and Q&As. So I'm going to do a short vacation, and then I'm going to continue telling stories.
You're amazing. I appreciate your time. That's great. Thank you so much, Nathan.
Cool. Thank you. Have a nice day.
You as well. Enjoy that vacation.
We will not stop until we are done.
You read a lot on climate?
A lot. I'm a nerd.